You know, I was really thinking about putting this video off a couple weeks, couple months, shoot, couple years down the line. I thought, man, it would make it more poetic. Your words would mean more. But I was totally wrong. And in proving my own point that I want to make today, I have to make this video today. So, today, y'all, we're talking about a subject that hits close to home for me, and it may hit close to home for y'all. You probably went to school, probably went to middle, elementary, maybe even high school, shoot, maybe even college. Today, we're talking about procrastination and fear of failure. I want to show you guys my cheat sheet beforehand because I always like to. Went ahead and wrote this today. So, if it sounds a little scripted, it's because I haven't reread it a bunch of times. I'm just going to go off the dome and hope for the best. So, let's say, during high school, little old me was one of the procrastinating bunch. I couldn't understand why, but I found myself not completing my work until right before or even after the deadline had passed. This behavior continued into my early adulthood, and it was a huge reason as to why I didn't attend college immediately following high school graduation. Obviously, I had ambitions and whatnot, and I had projects, school things, extracurriculars that I wanted to get done and whatnot, but a lot of the times I would just put it off, and I'd be like, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it the next day. It's tomorrow's issue, and then tomorrow's issue becomes tomorrow's issue. So it just, I kept putting things off. Wasn't getting what I wanted done. I remember when I was in high school, we used to log into our student portal, and I remember dreading hitting the gradebook section because there would be these big red letters at the top that said, Zane Voller has X amount of missing assignments, and it would just be like a wave of grief that came over me. Anyways, before I started journaling, I set out a few goals for myself that I wanted to accomplish during my time writing. One of those goals was to remedy my procrastination. I made efforts to use my time resourcefully rather than passively, and I made sure to have attainable goals that I could gradually take steps towards accomplishment. Since then, I've completed much of what I set out to do. In doing so, I was able to determine the root of my evil in my procrastination. That evil being a fear of failure and near perfect standards which I'd subconsciously set for myself. Now, I'm going to give a little context here as to what that means. In relations to procrastination, a fear of failure is an emotional and cognitive concern of failing. Individuals typically have an easier time avoiding failure rather than attempting to succeed. Jose Parlayed, in his Pittsburgh State University thesis, said that. I'm going to go ahead and put the link to that in the description. If you want to read it yourself, be my guest. Moreover, perfectionism, or that, like I said, those near-perfect subconscious standards, that urges procrastination. Sky-high standards make avoidance easier since it preserves your self-image. Not starting is much easier than screwing it all up, right? Well, wrong. You'll get more done messing up and trying over and over again than you will not trying at all. All this being said, you can understand why these two factors create a procrastination cycle. The only way that I was able to cure and remedy my procrastination was to change my environment and was to change my approach. Dr. Judd Brewer of Brown University articulates this point a whole lot better than I ever could. So again, I'm going to go ahead and link his article in the description, which I used for a lot of my research in writing this here script. He argues that perfectionistic tendencies can provoke excellent work. It just depends on where that energy is going. Now, I have a graphic that I'm going to put on screen, maybe somewhere around here, but I also have it up on my phone, so I'm going to cheat and read it off to you guys. A meta-analysis of 43 studies on perfectionism and procrastination found something surprising. High standards don't cause procrastination. In fact, wanting to do excellent work, or what researchers call perfectionistic strivings, is negatively associated with procrastination, meaning it actually helps you get things done. What does cause procrastination is perfectionistic concerns. The worry about making mistakes, the fear of negative evaluation, the dread of falling short of your own impossible standards. Two flavors of perfectionism, both with opposite effects. For your motivation, with perfectionistic strivings, you might say, I want this to be great, whereas with perfectionistic concerns, you might find yourself saying, it has to be perfect or else I've failed. Maybe, here's a good example, maybe a lot of people, I wouldn't know for myself, but maybe a lot of people have trouble getting into the gym or getting in regular exercise because they have like a certain beauty standard or subconscious perfectionist standard set for themselves. So it's easier to preserve that self-image by staying home rather than going to the gym and attaining the standards in which you strive for. I spoke about this a little bit in my consumption versus contribution video, but I'll touch on it a little bit here. What I say is rerouting the effort it takes to procrastinate and using it as motivation to get things done, to do. It'll bring you success, it'll bring you accomplishment, and it'll bring you personal fulfillment. These perfectionist mindsets, these fears of failure in your brain, they want you to do nothing, right? They want you to sit by and be okay in the now because it's easier than changing the reality. It's easier than changing your fate. It's easier than changing what you get out of it, I guess I could say. But what I will say is changing that perspective to the point where you'd rather try and fail than keep your self-image that you have beforehand. Here's my example. You ever have an essay you're looking to write, but you keep staring at the blank page on the front? And it's not because you're dumb. It's not because you don't have the information. If it is, then we have a whole different conversation we need to have. Maybe you need to look at it through a different perspective. Maybe you're not getting anything done because you still have music blaring in your AirPods. Maybe you're not getting anything done because you're sitting in your bed and you're not at a table with good posture. Maybe it really is because you're afraid of writing the wrong thing. The point is, changing your environment, changing your approach will continually give you the chance to do better than you did before and to do more than you did before. What I say, take the AirPods out, leave your room, go to the library, write with a pen and paper instead of typing. Changing that environment, changing your approach, changing the way you go about doing things, it gives you more and more chances for your brain to thrive in a different environment. My point for you guys in making this video is I want to tell you that instead of questioning the quality of your end result, try with your very best intentions and be okay with whatever your reality is afterwards. If you do that, you'll be fully content with the work that you present and the work you make. And all I'm saying is do as much as you can with the best intentions while the situation is in your hand. And as soon as you toss it over to somebody else's hand, inherently it's out of your hands. So there'd be no point in worrying about it. There'd be no point in stressing over it. No point in fearing failure. As long as you know you did exactly what you could do with your resources, you didn't cut corners, and you enjoyed what you did what you loved. I say, shoot, I work in a restaurant, I serve and cook, and whenever I cook, I tell everybody I make that food with love, and as soon as I send it out, it's in their hands, it's in their mouths. So it's up for their interpretation. I don't care about if it's good or not, because I know that in my heart of hearts, I did it with my best intentions and made it with love. Let's wrap this up, y'all. Don't want to keep you waiting. If there's one thing I can leave you folks with that you may remember out of this 8 to 12 minute yap sesh, it's that procrastination yields complacency. Change your approach and it'll change your outcome. Thanks for sticking around. Like I said, I have a bunch of new videos on the way. I got a bunch of new ideas that I'm going to be recording in my solitude and hoping that people see. Appreciate you sticking around. Appreciate you watching my video. And take care of yourself. Have a nice day. Later. Deuces.